Come on in and have a seat. It's time to sit down and have a chat at Stella Ruth's table. Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, good night, whatever time of day it is where you are. Thank you for tuning in to Stella Ruth's table. I am your host, Kimberly Brown, and as always, I am unapologetically myself because I don't know who else to be. So today we are on episode 3 of Prophecy, Process, and Promise. And we all know between the prophecy and the promise, there is always a process. And if you're not really sure what that means knowing that you are headed towards and working towards greater things and greatness. However, understanding and embracing the process to get you to the promise that you are working towards, your success. Okay? So this is episode 3 and it is entitled Taking Out the Trash. So we've already talked about not having shame in your past. We talked about finding the beauty in your broken parts of your life. And today we're going to take out the trash. How about that? So go ahead and grab your cup of tea, cup of coffee, or whatever your beverage of choice is and sit down at this table so we can have this conversation. So first thing I want to talk about in taking out the trash is something that is just so sensitive to people sometimes, and that is our toxic relationships. What, Miss Kim? What you talking about, toxic relationships? Yes, child, toxic relationships. And it does not have to be a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend, significant other, or otherwise. It could be a toxic friendship. It could be a toxic relationship that you have with a family member. Relationships can be toxic. What do I mean when I'm talking about a toxic relationship? I'm talking about those people that take and never give back. Those people that you are constantly pouring into, but they never pour into you. All you doing is coming up empty and they getting full and walking away. Those are those toxic relationships. So we have to learn how to get those toxic relationships out of our lives. There are some people that are going to fall away in your life, and it's okay if they fall away. What did we say in our previous episode? Some people come into your life for a reason. Some people come into your life for a season, and some people come into your life for a lifetime. There are leaves, there are branches, and there are roots. So you have to find the ones that are the roots and stick with those, because some people come in for a reason and they're there for a specific reason in your life, and then you got some that stick around a little while and they're just there for that season. But then when you move forward, you gotta stick with the roots, the ones that are standing strong with you. One thing my grandmother, Miss Stella Ruth herself, used to always tell us is that you can't take everybody with you where you're going. That's something that we say down in the South quite often. Everybody can't go with you, girl. So, but you cannot take everyone with you where you are going. Why? Because sometimes they can't handle the level that you're going to, and they're going to hinder what you're trying to do and what you are becoming because they don't understand, or they get jealous and you don't realize they get jealous. So you need to kind of kick those people, not kick them, but they got to kind of fall. You got to let them fall away. When they start falling away, you got to kind of let them fall away. I had a friend, let's go here. I had a friend that was my best friend for the majority of my life. We met in elementary school. We were friends forever. But then I started to realize, as we got to be adults and we got older, that I was doing all the pouring emotionally, and she was just taking. And every time I looked up, I was feeling bad for something that I really shouldn't have been feeling bad for, or she was dumping on me and I was taking it and dealing with it for her, and she was moving on. And then I started to realize that I had a pattern. So I was born and raised in Dallas, Texas. Had never lived anywhere else in my life. Raised my children in Dallas. Married my first 2 husbands in Dallas. Everything. But I started to realize that I was a serial toxic relationship expert, so to speak. I was that person that everybody dumped on all the time because I was so nice. You know, Miss Kim is so nice. She like having another mom. And I don't mind being mother wisdom to a lot of people, but sometimes I need friends and not somebody that I got to be mom to. And I started to realize that every time I ended up getting new people into my life, they turned out to be people that just were dumping on me. They just give me all their problems and they want to keep me up all night talking to me about their problems, their man problems, and this problem and that problem. And then when you give them advice, they don't listen to it because that's not what they wanted to hear. But they just dumped everything on you. Now you worried about them because they were so upset and they moved on and gone back to him or gone back to whatever they were doing. And I realized this one night when in the middle of the night, and it was after my ex-husband, had broken our marriage up. He had called me on the phone and told me he didn't want to be married anymore, And yeah, I had that moment like they had in Harlem Nights. Yeah, tell your mom I'm not ever coming home. But it wasn't like that, but it's kind of like that. But I realized I had just gone through that. While I was in the middle of going through that, I was just devastated going through. And this young lady that was a friend of mine at the time called me, and she used to call me all the time to talk to me about her marital problems and her problems with, what was going on in her life. And I was really going through it, and she called me and she was talking to me and telling me what was going on and how she was so upset and da-da-da-da. And I told her, look, if y'all just going to keep fighting and all of this other kind of stuff, then maybe y'all need to step away from each other for a little while. And, and she got angry because I said that, but I was hurting myself. So I couldn't really be there for her, but she was not taking into consideration that I was hurting myself. She just wanted what she wanted from me. And then she stopped and asked me, what am I going to do about my marriage? And I said, I don't know what you're going to do. Hell, excuse my language. But I said, I don't know what you're going to do because I don't have a husband anymore. I'm going through some changes and nobody wants to let me talk to them about what I'm feeling, but everybody wants to call me about what they feeling. So that was a toxic relationship. I was getting all the trash and not getting any of the love and the, companionship and the understanding and I didn't have a shoulder to cry on. But everybody was crying on my shoulder. So they was bringing all of their trash and dumping it in my can. But when my can was overflowing, nobody wanted to relieve some of my trash. Those are your toxic relationships. Those are relationships where all they do is bring negativity. That's another form where all they do is bring negativity. They never have anything nice to say or anything good to say. Everything is doomsday, doomsday, doomsday. Sometimes you have to push people out the circle. You get you a little circle. You have to start surrounding yourself with positive people and people that are really rooting for you. When I started doing that, I started to see who was truly for me and who was not. Because I started surrounding myself with positive people that were rooting for me, that had the same kind of thinking that I was thinking. And I'm trying to go somewhere and they're trying to go somewhere. So we're trying to get there together. So you have to determine what relationships in your life are toxic for you. There are, of course, some people that you can't just kick out of your life because they are family and things like that. But you can minimize contact. And when they start talking negative, you could just walk away and say, hey, I got to go. I do that often with somebody in my family. I'm not going to call no names, but I do that often. They get to talking all negative and crazy. I say, I got to go. I got this on the stove, or, my phone's ringing. I'll call you back, da, da, da. The other thing we're going to talk about is trash thinking. Now, trash thinking is thinking negatively. Okay? Thinking, why am I even doing this? Because nobody's going to listen to me. I mean, there's so many people out there already doing this. Why is mine any different? That's trash thinking. Don't cut off your blessing before it gets started good. Don't defeat yourself without even giving yourself a chance to see if you can win at it. That's like showing up to the football game and sitting on the bench knowing that you can go out there and run the ball, but you didn't even try. I think I used that analogy, right? So, trash thinking. You got to get rid of that trash thinking. You have to think positively. And even when things don't quite go right, instead of getting angry and just giving up, keep moving. Keep trying. There's nothing wrong with trying. As long as you're trying, you're doing good. It may not always go right, but if at least you're trying and you're moving forward a little bit at a time. I have experienced some times in my life where I was that person that, people would talk down about what I was trying to do, or they would say negative things, and then I would just give up and say, forget it. I don't have nobody in my corner. Then I started realizing I didn't need nobody in my corner but me. Really, as long as I believed that I could do it, it can be done. And then, like I say all the time, God must love me, because I got the best children in the world. They're the biggest cheerleaders ever. They're always rooting me on, and I love it. Now, the next thing is you have to learn when to say no. I had to do the same thing because I would say yes to everything and everybody about everything. Oh, yeah, I'll do that. Oh, yeah, I don't mind. Oh, yeah, sure. Yeah, I can get that done. And then I was overwhelmed with things that I was doing for everybody else and wasn't getting anything that I needed to do done. So it's okay to say no. I'm sorry, I don't have time to do that. I would love to, but I just can't. I don't have the time. And it took me leaving Dallas and moving to a whole nother state to realize that it was okay for me to say no sometimes. I was so overwhelmed, overworked, overdone, and just over. I was just over everything and everybody. But you have to learn when to say no. You have to learn that sometimes you can't put everybody before you. You have to take care of you just like you take care of everybody else. So if you have things that you have to do for your business, for your career, for your personal life, for things that you need, and it starts to interfere with what you're doing, what they want you to do is starting to interfere with what you're needing to do, you can say no. It's okay. It's okay to say, I can't do that right now. Let me see if I can find somebody that can help you out with it or something like that. Learn when to say no. You also have to learn to embrace new things and new experiences. If I tell you that is one of the hardest things that I had to learn to do, is embracing new things and embracing new experiences. I don't take compliments well. And so when people would compliment me, I felt shame, and I would drop my head and say, oh, thank you so much. But no, girl, I know I didn't do nothing. But you have to embrace that. I had to learn that it was okay to step out there and do things that I've never done before and give it a try, and that new experiences would come from it. When somebody approached me and said, you should do a podcast, I said, girl, please. Do it what? What am I going to do a podcast for? Don't nobody want to hear what I have to say. But here I am. I had to learn to embrace that this is something that I can do. So you have to embrace those new things. Embrace those new experiences. Embrace when new things come to you. Because a lot of times when new things and new experiences come into your life, they are stepping stones for where you're trying to go. Okay? Sometimes you have to learn to downsize. Downsize in life, downsize in your finances, downsize in your friendships, or just downsize in general. If you got a big old 5-bedroom house that you're struggling to pay, but you're trying to open up your own business and you're still trying to keep things together, and ain't nobody in you but you and your dog in the 5-bedroom, but you and the dog, or you and your spouse, and that's it. You might have to downsize to a 2 or 3 bedroom so you can save some money to build, so that you can have the money to build what you're trying to build. you know, or downsizing in life. You have 25 friends and only 5 of them are really there for you, and the other 20 are just fillers. You know, you might have to downsize a little bit. You might have to downsize, like we said before. Some people may need to not be in that circle because you got to learn to surround yourself with people that are going to push you just like you push them and encourage you like you encourage them. It doesn't mean you got to cut everybody out of your life, but you have to be more focused on the things that you're trying to do. You know, so you may just have to downsize there. Sometimes that happens. I know that when I made the decision to leave Dallas, my friend circle decreased tremendously. And then I started to learn, you know, who really was my friend because of the fact that I was not available anymore. You know, for you to call me at 11 o'clock at night to talk to me until 2 o'clock in the morning about your problems, you know, and I was not available anymore for you to come hide out at my house because you done got yourself into trouble because you got 2 dates. You know, I wasn't available anymore to babysit, you know, your kid while you went to the club and went club hopping with your other friends. And because I was not available anymore, my friend circle dropped tremendously. And then I got to Arizona and I started to realize that it was okay to have my own dreams and it was okay to figure out who I was. That was the other thing, that I had to step out of my comfort zone, embracing new things and new experiences. I had to step out of my comfort zone so that I can get a better understanding of who I really was. I did not really know what I wanted and what I liked until I stepped outside the box to figure it out. Now, last but not least, you have to take that empty vessel, which is yourself, when you're removing these toxic people in these toxic relationships, and you no longer have that trash thinking, and you're not doing toxic actions, you know, sabotaging yourself. You know, that's the other thing, sabotaging yourself, you know, when you're doing so well and it's going really well. So now you just got to do something crazy to sabotage the whole thing because you can't believe it's going well. You know, when you're taking all of that away, what you're creating is an empty vessel within yourself, so that you're ready to receive all the positive things that are coming next. You're receiving those blessings from God. You're receiving those contracts for your new business. You're receiving those new good relationships. You're receiving better relationships with your children and your family and your spouse. You have created a safe place for good things to happen within you and within your life. That's what it means to take out the trash, guys. You got to create a safe place for your own life and your own well-being. So when you get rid of all that toxic stuff that's happening, all that gunk that you've been carrying around, and all those people that mean you no good, and you know they don't mean you any good, but you still keeping them around because they're familiar. When you release all that, you're creating safe space for the great things that are happening in your life. What do we always say? We are striving to become better versions of who we already are. So you're creating a safe place for good things to happen within you. I'm going to leave it right there. Let it melt in your brain. I have enjoyed speaking with you on today about this subject. So glad you took a moment to listen in and see what we were talking about today. Our next episode, episode 4, is going to be embracing the process. And we're going to talk about that in our next episode. So as always, guys, I'm so appreciative when you stop by and take a listen and listen to see what I got going on over here. I feel so very blessed to launch this venue. So I thank you. I'm grateful. And as always, you can find us in a lot of different areas. You can send me an email on lovemom2930@gmail.com, or you can send an email to Stella Roos Table at gmail.com. You can find us on YouTube. I have a cooking channel, Stella Ruth, and I also have a podcast channel, Stella Ruth's Table. You can find those two on YouTube. You can find me on Instagram at Stella Ruth 2930. You can find me on Twitter at Stella Ruth. And you can find me on Facebook. I have 2 Facebook pages. One is my business page, and it's the Love Mom 2930. And the other is my podcast page, which is Stella Ruth's Table. Thank you so, so much for stopping by and taking a listen. God bless you. As always, you know what I say. Live life, laugh often, and have some good food while you're doing it. You guys have a wonderful rest of your day. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. God bless you.